You're listening to Sports Psych Talk. The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are those of the hosts and guests and do not necessarily reflect any affiliated organizations or institutions. This podcast is for informational and educational purposes only and is not a substitute for professional advice, diagnosis, or treatment. If you're facing mental health or medical concerns, please consult a qualified professional. Sports Psych Talk does not accept responsibility for any actions taken based on the content shared. Reproduction or distribution of this podcast without permission is prohibited. Thank you for tuning in, and we hope you enjoy today's episode.
Hello everyone, welcome to the second season and I think this is seventh episode going to be. First of all, I just want to mention that I was not recording the podcast past some time because I was busy here and there. Recording this particular podcast after almost 3 months. And also, there are some comments actually given by the colleagues. Actually, they're liking the podcast. They basically enjoyed listening to and learning, particularly from the seniors from this field of sports psychology who's working within India. And I think that is also quite an encouragement for me and for this platform particularly. So today we have you know, everyone is almost familiar in sports psychology, Dr. Shivjot Gill with us. So we welcome Dr. Shivjot actually to Sports Psych Talk. And I just will take a moment and, just to let everyone know about Dr. Shivjot, that she is specialized in the field of sports psychology. She's done her PhD from Punjabi University, Chandigarh. And primarily I have seen that her publication in mental training, particularly on mental training and the structure of mental training, how that mental training basically helps in performance enhancement. Her professional trajectory also characterized by the collaboration with some esteemed organizations like Indian Army, Punjab Armed Police Forces, and NCC across Punjab, Haryana, Himachal Pradesh, Chandigarh, New Delhi as well. She also served at Sports Authority of India as a sports psychologist for Indian Army team, other various centers. She also served as a chief sports psychologist for National Center of Excellence at Netaji Subhash Chandra Institute of Sports in Patiala. So we welcome Dr. Gill. So, this is, going to be, I think, quite an interesting episode. I just quickly want to say if you can just, check with your audio because audio is slightly low, or if you can speak little loudly. So,
Yeah, I'm
yeah,
audible.
now it's better. Now it's better. So, before we start, so I want you to basically, introduce yourself to the audience, from where you are basically, and, what are basically why you're so interested, what interest basically brought you, uh, attracted you to psychology as a career, and, that to the highest level, done PhD in psychology. And so, what was the motivation behind, and from where you are, by the way, for our audience, if you can tell.
So, my background is from Punjab. Specifically, I am from Nawashahar. This comes under district Shaheed Bhagat Singh Nagar. And I was born in Patiala, but I was brought up in Nawashahar. So, talking specifically about my interest in sports, uh, I have been playing multiple sports since my childhood, and this has also come across through family. My grandfather was a football player in his times, and he had represented a few clubs. Uh, and slowly he transited to the career of Indian classical music. So a bit comes from there. But my journey was completely dependent upon my own exploration. So I was exploring multiple sports, started from karate, then went on to fencing, then went on to basketball. Eventually, I settled down to a sport of shooting. Why shooting specifically was because my father had pretty much knowledge about weapons, about shooting, and he was also enthusiastic about it. Uh, so from there, I started my career with air rifle and meters air rifle. It was in class 11th and 12th that uh, I actually started practicing this particular sport. And then when I went on to college, I switched my event to shotgun skeet. So I was playing skeet, and the I switched with complete interest as to the thrill that shotgun has, the outdoor exposure that shotgun has, and then I realized that I'm more interested in a sport which is dynamic, a little more active. A lot of my career learnings are from my own sporting experience. Uh, but specifically, one area that I really got interested in was creating my own mindset to play professionally. I wouldn't say general playing, but professionally. So when I say professionally means what all is required for me to put into play consistently and improve consistently for showing, a national level or an international level kind of a performance. It wasn't a easy ride. Of course, there was a lot of exploration that was involved. It was not all about, learning the technique or learning the tactics, but there was more about, learning about oneself, how to execute what I have learned, over the period of 2, 3 years of my technical training with my coach. So my sporting career gave me an edge to think more about what specific mindset, what kind of thinking, what kind of behavior does my sport require, in order to succeed in it. I wouldn't say that I was 100% successful in doing that, but to an extent, I was at least able to understand the requirements and demands of my sport as an athlete. At some time, it also happens that you are able to understand it better, but you're not able to execute it better. But when you teach the same thing to other person is able to do it much better than you. So yeah, the same kind of a thing happened with me. I started putting my understanding and knowledge on trials. I started testing it on people, on my juniors, and I saw that there are big changes coming in terms of how they are performing things. This led me to my academic journey, and prior to this, I had competed at World University Championship level, came back to India, and I gave it a good thought that, okay, I have represented the country at a certain level, and for the kind of achievement that I'm looking forward to, there are things that are going to be put in. And after a good thought, I decided to lead on to a career in sports psychology. I wasn't familiar with sports psychology at that time. I just knew that there is something about mindset that people say, something about, mental training people say, something about focus, something about concentration people say. I really didn't know the exact terminology behind this. But after exploring a bit and knowing a bit, I realized that there is something called as sports psychology that talks about, completely about the mindset of athletes. So thereon, my academic journey started, and it went on and on, and today, as it is, you know it well.
Yeah, actually, this is interesting. Basically, uh, I also do feel that I have not been competitive myself when I was playing sport actually during my school time. Uh,
Mhm.
you and me are from same state. I'm from Punjab, so you know how this field hockey is very popular sport in Punjab. And I picked up field hockey, in my school, and trained myself on around 3 years. but it was a relatively tough sport. Actually, the kind of the genetics actually, or kind of the somatotype the Punjabis are carrying. This is uh, in playing hockey is a contact sport, and um, so somewhere I guess through my experience also, uh, sports does uh, you know bring a lot of changes in your own personality, and you go through experiences yourself, and like you said that, like, that is how you basically paved your way to into the psychology and then sports psychology, and it become a very good uh, you know combination for you to pursue as a career. Dr. Shivjot, actually, uh, I know, I have been talking to you quite some time now. Um, you have done, your PhD, particularly on mental training, and you want to see certain structure of mental skill training. Uh, how it is basically affecting the performance, or maybe certain other psychological, uh, attributes, through the psychological skill training. So please highlight a little bit about what mental training is, because you have delved quite deep into while doing your PhD. Must have gone through a lot of literature. So what is mental training? What is, first of all, training actually, and then mental training, and how you basically um, how this entire structure works, and first of all, understanding the mental training, the components of the mental training, and then obviously the structure of the mental training comes, and then the implementation. And if you can share these insights one by one, it will definitely help a lot of young budding psychologists.
So, Karan, I would like to explain what you're asking is actually something that can be talked for hours and hours, but I'll try to keep it very short and, of course, not textual, because we all are familiar with what the book says, what people say, what researchers say, and they are not false things. They are, of course, practical things and they are realistic things. But for a journal person to understand, uh, training in itself is a process where one tries to execute a learned behavior. And the more it is learned, the, the more it is practiced, the more it is repeated, the better it becomes. So in sports, basically, training as a wholesome is you pick up a particular kind of a skill set, or a method that you want to learn about and you want to execute, and you work on it again and again and again. Now, this training can be in anything. It can be, uh, you know, training yourself to maybe, hit a ball, training yourself to stand a particular way, training yourself to position yourself a certain particular way, or maybe just training yourself to be, uh, uh, focusing on something. So training can be anything and about any task. Specifically talking about mental training, I see mental training as one step further to just talking about training your mind. It is basically training yourself to adapt a sporting persona. One is your own self that you are in your everyday life. The other is the self that you adapt when you are on your playground. It is a completely different personality, which requires certain skill sets, certain abilities to perform what he or she is trying to perform. So, of course, an athlete goes through training with the coach, learning a particular skill set, or practicing it again and again. But using that skill set in a particular persona and adapting that particular persona and being ready for it time and again, once that individual is in a performance mode, is something where the mental training comes in. And I think the biggest problem that lies here in understanding of our athletes today, specifically in India. I would not talk about the global part because I am not familiar how globally things are. You know, it is varying from country to country. But talking about the Indian mindset about mental training, it is only limited to gaining a result by doing some kind of an exercise or some kind of a method or some kind of a process that one is able to gain the results, and that's it. And this is leading to practice, a very wrong practice of using mental training either 10 days before a match or maybe a month before a match, or not asking a sports psychologist to be available for the full course of the technical training. So it is like a quick fix that people think of, and even our athletes. And this is one of the challenging part here. So mental training is a process of basically adapting a persona which requires particular skills and abilities, and that are actually trained or nurtured using certain mental practices. That's my definition of it. That's how I understand. That you first understand and adapt a persona, you see what kind of a skill sets and what abilities it require, and on the basis of that, you decide that what kind of a mental capabilities you require to work upon. And it can vary sport to sport. It can vary person to person. It can also vary from age group to age group. So that's how the whole concept, in a nutshell, what mental training is all about. Now, my work, when I began with this definition, uh, the simple definition that we all are taught of, that, it is a process of training the mindset. But over the years, as I read and as I worked with people, I have realized that when you're working as a sports psychologist, specifically as a practitioner on the ground, it goes beyond just improving somebody's scores or somebody's performance, but it has also do with somebody's lifestyle, uh, which a coach cannot change at the first go, a physio cannot change at the first go, a biomechanist cannot change at the first go, but a sports psychologist can, act as a feeder for an athlete to slowly bring them to a behavioral change. So when I started understanding about what mental training is, how is it done, what do people actually do about it, where all it is used, how it is used, uh, I understood that it is a culmination of multiple processes, multiple skill sets, multiple ideas, multiple behaviors. The thing is, we have to create, I would say, a plan out that suits a particular sport or a particular athlete, and see that whether this kind of a plan out is applicable to multiple sports as well and multiple kind of athletes as well. This led me to the understanding of the concept of interventions. In a medical term, we understand interventions and, something that we give to see the change, like a medicine is given to see the reaction. Intervention is done, it is given on a first day, then it is given on a fifth day, then it is given on after a week. So process is done and it's called an intervention. But in sports psychology, this intervention process certainly involves a timeline. But the culmination of things, the blend of things, what do you give to your athlete? And in that particular sporting environment is what actually intervention is. So, of course, when I started reading about it, I read about physical education. I had to read also about, general sports, and understand that interventions are time-based. They are specific in terms of executing a result, that one particular intervention will only focus on something and not on the other parts, keeping other things constant. And they are not the one-stop solution for helping an athlete to improve their performance. They are modalities, they can be used, but they're not the one-stop solution to, if we are saying that, okay, I will do this plan out for 5 weeks with you and drastically a change will come in your world where you will be performing amazing. You might see a change, but you don't know in which area. You might see in a behavior, you might see in a performance, you might see in the approach of how one is doing a game. And now, of course, this change also depends. This can be a positive change and this can also be a negative change. So when I say negative change, it means that the athlete might realize that he or she is not actually doing things the way they're supposed to. And they get a understanding of things better and they want to change everything completely. That is a positive change in itself, but as a process, it's a negative change. So my PhD when I began was on target sports because, of course, I was more familiar with my sport. And I had worked in depth with archery and shooting sport. And it was understanding the different global models that are used for training these athletes. And my major concern has always been is the athlete's health, not medically, but the well-being, their overall lifestyle, because it gets hampered. The personal life gets hampered, the social life gets hampered, and the career life gets hampered. So well-being has been a very close concept to me. Of course, it is something that is you can't see, you see it with time over the days, over the months, you see that an individual is improving. So I explored these particular areas and I developed using these theories and models as a basis of intervention to test and see whether it is applicable in Indian scenario as well or not. How much of this whole process which I try is capable of creating some kind of a change or effect. So this was a 3-week intervention. It was a microcycle intervention. And we gained approximately 60 to 70% of positive results. There was a 30% of result which showed that what we were assuming is not, or what we were actually trying to figure out is not applicable. It failed drastically in the Indian scenario. And then that led me to further explore more about why it failed, how it failed, and what are the reasons behind it. And during the postdoctoral, when I was doing postdoctoral, my exploration was to extend this model further and see how much change is there and what kind of intervention would help if the time is extended. So I would say that interventions do help, but they are to be designed every time for every sport. And the current scenario of training that we have in a country, we do have sports psychologists, but we need a vigorous R&D so that we understand the basis of things. And, we can come up with plans and we can come up with training schedules that are more helpful to athletes and even coaches. Yes, even coaches can understand it over the period of time.
Definitely, actually, you have used, few terminologies very specifically. Obviously, the entire research study you have done on around the mental skill capacity building programs, uh, using the microcycle and trying to see how it is going to affect a certain psychological states and factors, and maybe performance as well on the same time. Uh, so I just wanted to know, that was of part of the extension of your entire methodology, where you have to
Hmm.
look into the sample size and on the population, and then uh, you use the tool and collect the data. It was, I think, pretty much a procedure bound. When it comes to the practical side of the mental skill training, which I just wanted to, we will definitely discuss about little bit research, methodology and how that work. But I think then the entire discussion will be too extensive, because we are trying to just talk more specifically about the mental skill training, because what I have seen, what I have observed, actually, I myself have used. No, it is like everyday uh, fair for me, where the athletes are visiting, and I'm listening to. And most of the time nowadays, the approach is more, how they think, how they feel, how they behave, and then you figure out if there is any kind of disturbing, thoughts or emotions are there, and then how it is basically affecting the behavior. That is obviously, that become the focus of intervention, primary, focus of a sports psychologist. But other side is where I am like helping them to understand those, particularly those who do not have any major issue going on in their life. Everything is okay, family, no problem. The coach said interpersonal, there is no problem. They are primarily struggling with their performance, and uh, they may come up, so everything is okay. I'm training very good. But whenever I go to the competition, I just fall into this trap of where I make the mistake and unable to control that. My reactions may be in something. So mental skills become important. Basically, it should be the part of an overall routine and a process. Uh, Coming on to the practical side of the mental skill training, Dr. Shivjot, you have worked practically. I
Hmm.
have seen the kind of the enthusiasm or interest you have
Hmm.
for this subject, of mental training. So,
Hmm.
how was your experience basically? One challenge definitely which you have shared other coaches, from coaches' point of view, also they also need to, maybe they don't understand, because maybe there is not much to talk about when it comes to Indian population. R&D is required, or maybe these sports psychologists have done something silly in the past. Actually, they have lost faith in us. So there might be any number of reasons we don't know, because as you are also, uh, you know yourself, done doctorate, so you understand, we have to have certain evidence, scientific evidence, when we are trying to establish something. So I just simply can't say that the coaches are responsible.
Uh, there is a knowledge gap, a huge knowledge gap between the practitioner and the coaches. And I would say that it's not coaches' fault, because when they were into their times of training and practice of things, these things were very unfamiliar. And as the time is passing, new and new things are coming up, new and new systems are coming up, new and new, training ways are coming up. So one of the major problem is here is knowledge gap, where coaches are familiar. I won't say they understand and they know, but they're familiar with that, something like sports psychology, something like, physiology, something like uh, biomechanics, or something like anthropometry, and all these things exist. But that's not the forte, and that's not that they would try to look into until unless it is a matter of concern. And they actually they want to understand it, but the way our specialists in sports psychology have put it across to our coaches and to the public, I would say I think the word has gone out wrong. Again, not a fault of our professionals and practitioners, because this field is niche in our country. And we are still, we are at a baby stage of it. And it will take some time for it to gain momentum in terms of creating knowledge, building knowledge, and making people aware of actually what it is. But the best way to go on about it for me at that time was using existing examples. Existing example of people who have already worked in this field, no matter Indian or global, but using those examples to create a meaning of why this is needed for that particular sport in India. So if I'm working with, let's say I'm working with the footballers, then why it is needed for footballers and why for the Indian footballers and what is the need of the hour and why we have it and why we don't have it. So because see our tendency is to give uh, rationale to everything. Why should I do it? It's a common tendency for all of us that why should I do it? How is it going to help me? So this was the general approach of everybody. Yeah, there was some people who just didn't want to even talk about it and didn't want to have psychological services because for them it was like it's very confusing. And when it is confusing, there is so much of talk about it, and why to get into it? So I personally, and I still today feel there is a huge knowledge gap. The coaches, the fraternity, the people who are not even coaches, the people who are associated with sport one way or the other, they need to understand, first of all, that what is this whole field all about? We don't need to give them the details, but of course, about what are our services that can be given to them, to athletes, to the ecosystem of sports. Uh, Another challenge that I feel is that because it's booming and there is too much of glamour around sports, we can pick up any sport. Too much glamour around sport that today uh, our professionals want to specifically, as sports psychology is booming, people want to come into the limelight of, that, okay, I'm a sports psychologist for something. I'm doing this for team. I'm doing that. That's at a personal level, that's okay. But as a field, if I see it, we need more of groundwork than publicizing that we have this facility in our country. This is like saying that I have the sports science facilities with me and I have ABCD, every aspect of it. But when you visit me and when you see my facilities, you realize it's just a structure. It's just a structure, it's just a facility. But in terms of the productivity, in terms of the results, in terms of, what is innovative, you don't find anything. So that is what is happening, I think, in the field of sports psychology today, specifically in Indian scenarios, that we have people, we have resources, we have a lot of awareness now, but it's like too much of knowledge is not becoming a blessing because everybody is looking at a quick fix. Maybe doing a short-term course, maybe doing a 1 month diploma, maybe doing 3 months of internship. That is, I feel that is a stepping stone towards a longer journey, and that is needed. But that cannot define that, a 3 months of practice or a 6 months of a practice will lead you to a whole soul experience of uh, what is to be like a sports psychologist. Like today, if I tell about myself, I feel that as a practitioner, you need a very different kind of a skill set and a mindset than being a researcher or an academician in the same field. So the bifurcation, the second challenge is people are not able to bifurcate between the practice and the knowledge. You can gain info from the knowledge, you can learn from it, but the person who is into adaptation and practice of it has a better experience of it. So demarcation of our sports psychologists as practitioners and as educators or researchers is a very big challenge in our country. Everybody wants to do research. Everybody wants to do practice. Everybody wants to, have certain level of certifications. Uh, I think the clarity needs to come in that part of the area where it is where one should know that whether I want to be a practitioner of it or whether I want to be an educator of it. Uh, Other challenge is, of course, is that our athletes still, and that is a tradition, of course, that they believe in the last word of a coach. Finally, the third challenging point here is that we were talking about the demarcation of the roles and what exactly one needs to understand that there is a difference between the knowledge and the practice of it. And I think I have in our previous podcasts and uh, discussions I have majorly highlighted this part that one doctor cannot be solution to all the problems. So this even sports psychology is a field where uh, one sports psychologist cannot bring out all the solutions. So there has to be a demarcation of specifically having person who's a clinical sports psychologist, a person who is, a general sports psychologist, a person who is expert in uh, handling teams on the field as a sports psychologist. So the variation is, of course, there. So I think that is a very big challenging part to make people understand, that specifically in team and in sporting fraternity, that, when you say that you need a subordinate, you need somebody to help you with the research part, or you need somebody to help you with the analysis part of intervention, or you want somebody to be as an observer, then the question is, why do you need that? You're a sports psychologist, you can all alone handle everything. But the idea is this doesn't work that way. It generally doesn't work that way. And it is not only in India, but it is globally also. If we see the practice, uh, there are ways to work along with people. Like, for example, today, I see that somebody who's into, neurology, neurolinguistics, or somebody who can do neuroimaging and, all those kind of things. Now, it's not important that one sports psychologist knows it all. Somebody could be a sports psychologist who's professionalized in handling equipments, in doing analysis of the behavior patterns and things through equipments, and somebody could be very good as an observer doing the prognosis and diagnosis. So we need our today's sports psychologists to be trained like that, not only just studying about what mental training, what sports psychology, what resilience, what all these things are, but eventually specializing in one area as to, okay, as a sports psychologist, what do you want to deal with? Do you want to deal more with equipment, or do you want to deal more with humans? Do you want to be more like a counselor, or do you want to be more like an observer or a therapist? So obviously, everybody has a choice to that. Like, there are sports psychologists who are very good with therapies. They're naturally very good with therapies because, of course, we know that most of our psychology people have a background in either counseling or a clinical psychology. Sports psychology is very recent. So, uh, not analyzing, but actually recognizing the skill set, recognizing which kind of an expert can add on to uh, is very important. And this is where the biggest challenge is, to explain this to the fraternities, to explain this to the organizations, to the system that is currently existing. And I think if this is well understood and people are able to understand this part, it is very easy to create a pool of well learned, expert sports psychologists in any organization or any country who focus on their own particular tasks and actually work with team, you know, at a different levels, junior, senior, or maybe pre or post. Those are the different things. So I think I had a big challenge in explaining all this to people, specifically the organization where I was working, or with the coaches or people, because everybody understand is like mental training mindset ही तो है. आपको पॉजिटिव बातें करनी है, आपको अच्छी बातें करनी है, आपको बूस्ट करना है, आपको मोटिवेट करना है. दिस इज, I think we are gone far beyond all this now. This was this is not the one stop solution, and some people come to me like 2 महीने में हो जाएगा, परफॉर्मेंस आ जाएगी वापस बाहर. And I say I have no answer to this. Actually, there is no answer to this.
Yeah, there are such things actually, even we also laugh about actually when we I just don't want to say on the podcast, but I just can't resist myself when you are just part of the meeting and are listening to these people actually rather than giving you an opportunity to speak and ask you, okay, you are so and so person and you're an expert in this field. What do you think about it actually? We just want to know about your perspective. Um, they simply be like, okay, I just want you to do this thing and that thing and XYZ, rather than, giving us. That is not happening to me, particularly at the moment, actually. I have gone through that phase. Maybe youngsters, I know actually, because I'm in touch with, most of these people out there are practicing. So they are facing challenges, and when they do sometimes call me, maybe you also receiving some calls and seeking some help. Okay, ma'am, this is happening with me. How to handle this. My uh, senior, this guy who is basically managing everything is asking me, okay, मुझे जल्दी से तुम ये बताओ, ये टेस्ट करने हैं, ये टीम आ रही है तो कौन सा टेस्ट करेंगे. तो एंड यू आर ट्राइंग टू बी माइंडफुल एक्चुअली, नॉट जस्ट माइंडफुल तो एक बात हो जाती है, यू आर ट्राइंग टू बी लिटिल साइंटिफिक एक्चुअली. कि ऐसे काम नहीं होता है. दिस इज नॉट द वे बेसिकली दैट वी अप्रोच बेसिक टू एनी टीम और एनी इंडिविजुअल. यू नो that you decide test on what basis. Basically there has to have the criteria. बट इन मोस्ट ऑफ दिस ऑर्गेनाइजेशन बोले कि तुम एक बस लिस्ट बना लो, इसका इन कौन कौन सा टेस्ट करोगे, बच्चे कहेंगे. ये सब बड़ा और आई एम ऑनेस्टली स्पीकिंग बिकॉज इट इज अबाउट योर जॉब एक्चुअली एंड यू आर क्लेवर इनफ, यू विल नॉट पे मच हीट टू दी थिंग्स लाइक
Yeah.
आपको साइंटिफिकली करेक्ट होना है. यू आर द ओनली न्यूटन इन द है कि आपको यू आर द स्मार्टेस्ट एज अ साइकोलॉजिस्ट व्हेन यू वर्क विद द ऑर्गेनाइजेशन, दैट how to basically kind of overcome these challenges also, and gaining more sort of but maybe developing a relationship through being more accommodating to these things initially. Maybe I know these things are silly, you also may agree, Dr. Shivjot, with me. uh, Obviously silly, but it may help you to develop your relationship, and maybe when is the right time you can tell, okay, we have done this but we could have done this way. Anyways, so we were talking about the challenges of the mental training. Obviously lack of knowledge is there. Still, side by side awareness is also increasing among the coaches. Young coaches are far more flexible actually and are easy to work actually. uh, Second one actually I forgot, but the third one I remember. Obviously maybe something to uh, tinker around these administration and management, and how we bring tell them, okay, this is the mental skill training and this is how it is going to work, this is how I'm going to structure it. uh, Coming on to Dr. Shivju, do you think that since you also have, in terms of academic achievements, you have PhD, then comes the postdoc also, various other projects here and there. Do you think this academic evolution as a human being does bring how basically it helps, because I also, I finished my PhD. Basically, I finished my writing my thesis, of course. Then, after a few days I will also get my PhD. I will become a PhD. So do we become more philosophical, scientifically philosophical? Does it make a difference? Or maybe we are more basically become more, when it comes to the problem or addressing the problem, we have more elaborated and comprehensive views around it. Or do you think that make sometimes things difficult for us, or you think this is a good thing? Because this impact of academic evolution on our personalities, and then how we basically talk and behave, and how we address within sports psychology.
I think when we uh, start our academic journeys, I'll talk, of course, I'll take myself only as an example. I was inquisitive to find and understand the dynamics of it. Mental training, my mindset, what is all this about? How do you do it? And there was no other way other than reading books or watching a video or listening to somebody or talking to someone. I think as you get more deeper and deeper into understanding of something, there is something new unfolds in the journey. It's never the same. Like, for example, I started with understanding of, what is this mindset all about? And it led me to performance. It led me to other areas of, s- uh, s- sporting personality, how a sporting personality is like. PhDs, masters, bachelors are the academic prerequisite, of course, to gain such kind of a knowledge. But I think they are not the ultimate solutions as to what eventually you make out of your knowledge. So people like you and I, and people those who have gone through this academic journey and evolution, we all have our own meanings of our own practices. But there are some fundamentals which are same across all of us. Uh, what the field is about, what it deals with, what are its demands and challenges. I think it's same across all of us. We know it when we practice it. We know it when we, impart the same knowledge to somebody else. But the way we use it, we understand it, we are driven firstly from so much that we have learned. And in a way, I think that makes us humble in a knowledge that, okay, one thing is not the ultimate solution to everything. There are multiple variables involved in it. And this kind of a thinking comes especially when you do academic research, when you're more into research, not into learning, not in your master's and undergrad level. It majorly comes when you're in this exploratory world of PhD. You're reading, you're making sense of so many people, so many theories, so many concepts. Eventually, your thesis is a sense making of what you have learned out of it. And our brains also get evolved that way, that we start making sense in our own creative way. So whatever sense you are making today of your PhD is a unique sense to you. And whatever I made is a unique sense to me. And from that, we adapt, we pick up what is the good practice and the bad practice to be, used in that field. Uh, I think that patience, that perseverance, that difficulty of learning, that सीखना ही पड़ेगा वाला जो approach है, that is what higher education teaches, and that is what even experience teaches. Today's generation uh, is actually looking forward, majority, I would say, those who have connected with me and those who are in contact with me, they're looking for something that gratifies their need of this, where we are today, in within few months or within a year. and they are able to put it across on the table. And there are some who believe that you should just know the basic fundamentals of what is needed to be done in this role. And they are also able to execute the similar kind of results. So I would say that it is a personal choice, number one, as to what kind of a professional you want to become as a sports psychologist. Do you want to have a rationale to your own practice and ethics? Doesn't mean that you have to be strict on them, but you have to be at least, realistic on them. You cannot just say everything is true. Uh, Secondly, is that you have to create your own way of using the knowledge that you have gained and learn from the best practices of others, how they are doing it, what they are doing, um, gain from them, and create your own, uh, you know, own understanding of the concept, so that tomorrow when you are asked about it, you are able to speak from your own self, and you also make scientific logic behind it. It's not that, believe in everything and just keep on going with it. So I think this academic evolution, Karan, is very important for those who want to gain a deeper meaning to what they're actually doing. It is not required for everybody, I would say. Obviously, sometimes you just don't need that kind of academic understanding. But some people who have this bend of mind, who think that they need to get into the intricacies of understanding or creating a sense of something, they they must read more, um, must explore more by reading as to why, if somebody has used, why is it applicable there? Why is it not applicable here? How does it make sense to me? How does it make sense to other people? Uh, this kind of a critical analysis is needed. And today's generation must do it. And it will take time. It takes time. It is not a like a 1 week thing or a 2 days thing or a month thing. So I think academic evolution, PhD, for me, PhD has been a mode of gaining more knowledge, to be very honest. Uh, I was not allured by the degree. I was not even allured by the postdoc. I was only allured by the knowledge because I always felt that there is something more that I need to understand about it. And till the time I don't put myself into that kind of an environment, in that kind of a zone where I'm able to, go through this in detail and understand things better, I will not be able to make sense of it. So yeah, PhD gives you that chance because you are all about yourself, all about your knowledge, all about, and you feel that you have aced the world when you're doing it, that, oh, you know it all, but it never ends. You don't know it. It never
Yeah, yeah.
ends till today. It never ends for me. I still open books, still open those old traditional theories, still go back to those researchers who are no longer alive and go through the systems and things because they are the core of everything. So, what I have done in my PhD is a micro, you know,
Small thing actually.
छोटा सा बूंद है जो
Yeah,
कि
yeah.
system में I have put in. Somebody who want to makes it big can go ahead, you know. Somebody who doesn't want to look at it, that's also all right. But as a researcher, I would say my suggestion is please go ahead. Please
Please go
explore
ahead.
what I
Yeah.
have done and modify it and improve it. It's not the last word. It is never the last word. Somebody to, and for that's why I always emphasize that we are saying sports psychologists as a practitioners. We first need people who are knowledgeable enough to practice, people who have uh, understanding of the concepts, and that is where I actually it was some time back I started teaching people sports psychology online. Like, okay, you want to study? okay, let's study like that. Because real-time example comparisons are very much needed in this. And I am of an opinion that after every 3 weeks of class study, fourth week should be spent on ground for these sports psychologists. Not the semester should be spent, but a fourth week should be spent. After every
Yeah.
2-3 weeks of study, go on the ground and figure out what you have learned.
Just figure out what section you have gone through, what chapters you have gone through, and if you are able to, kind of figure it out in a real world scenario. If you go to the training, you'll observe more athletes, and observing more athlete is going to help you. We are almost heading, toward the end of the podcast. I just want you to summarize, uh, you know, what you message you want to uh, give to the audience, and and also tell them actually they must go and share, like, and subscribe actually YouTube channel here. And I tell this to everyone nowadays. Okay, I'm not by worrying about my subscribers, but still, because I'm doing it out of passion. So tell them, okay, you go subscribe, comment actually. And I have page on Instagram as well. I have page on LinkedIn, my YouTube channel, and watch this podcast. But how you summarize, Dr. Shivjot, actually, entire thing, and what message you want to give to the budding psychologist?
Uh, I would say that, first of all the young sports psychologists and professionals who are interested, or students who are interested in pursuing this field, um, see, this is a very niche field. People who are working in it are already contributing their own time and money in it. When the young lot comes across the professionals for help, for learning, please understand that it is not freely available. I am seeing this trend across a lot of sports psychologists, or a lot of students who want to have a free knowledge, uh, where a sports psychologist, they want to get also trained from a sports psychologist. They also want to gain knowledge. They also want to have an internship experience, but they want to just have it for a certification or for a name affiliation with somebody. That is not going to help you to create a career in sports psychology in a longer term. If you're really, really looking forward to something, then I must suggest you that you should put a part of your pocket money into getting into those courses, getting into those programs that make sense to you as per the syllabus, and that are both practical and knowledge based in nature. Be alert about this. To all, this is for all the young students. Why I say alert? Because there are a lot of uh, you know replica courses, and it's a fish market. You can, today you ask, you'll have 10 courses online on sports psychology. Don't fall for those traps. Be very, very vigilant about what you're involving yourself into. You're putting your time, your energy, your money. Go under training with professionals, with sports psychologists who already have an established name in the country, who already have some kind of knowledge and backing. Uh, Please do not go on the name of the organization uh, which is providing you course with the sports psychology. When I say organization, means some private company, somebody sponsoring. Uh, that is not going to help you learn better. It might have a good name. So keep yourself vigilant about what you are getting into. Uh, it's best to go with authentic courses, uh, courses that create some kind of a sense for you. Irrespective, no matter, you have to put in more money to pursue those courses, but go ahead with those courses, which of course gives you certification as well, but give you a blend of experience, not only bookish experience, or saying that you'll be working with the this famous team, you'll be working with this famous person. That's not going to help in long term. You have to see the quality of the context that you're going to learn during those internship periods or during that particular online course. What the context is going to be all about. What is your gaining in that? How open that course is for your questions and queries. Because some courses are very good in structure, but by the end, when you come to it, they're not open to queries. They're only open to limited queries. So be a little vigilant about it. But this is for specifically for today's sports psychologists and students who are interested. Second word is that read a lot. And when I say read a lot not only about sports psychology, but also the fields from which sports psychology emerged. I think this is the biggest crack I could give you. Read a lot about the fields from which this field has emerged. And it's not only psychology, it could be sociology, it could be economics, it could be multiple things. See which dot connects where and what sense does it make to you. For example, a very easy example. Today we have this, psychology, media psychology in sports and hype, impact of media on athletes. This is not a old topic. IOC has covered it very well, and everybody try to understand the nuances of what is this mass and communication. How does it function? How does it create a psychological impact and barriers? What is about sports in it? You should have those inquisitiveness and those questions from your own self as students as to why am I getting into it? Fame, name is the last thing of this profession. I won't say the first thing. We enter thinking it's a first thing. It's the last thing of this profession, and you cannot be even sure you'll get it or not. You cannot be sure whether you'll get it or not. It is just like मिल गया कभी मिल गया नहीं मिला ऐसे ही होता है. So be realistic about what you're getting into, and it'll demand your time, your life. With working with athletes is equivalent to being an athlete. There is a lot that gets hampered. And when I say hampered, there is a lot of hodgepodge in your own personal life as well as a sports psychologist, your own family life as well, your own personal commitments as well. So be ready to have a dynamic career where you can be out for months and you can be not going anywhere for months. So it's that kind of a career. And I think a lot of factors that I've just spoken of are relatable to many other sports science fields, specifically with physiologists. They keep moving, they keep traveling. And mashers, for them also, it is that kind of a process. So I think today's generation should sit down for days and days to give a good thought on what they want to do and why they want to do. And not go on the LinkedIn posts, social media posts. Go on the quality of what is being shared. And I think, like Karan just mentioned about, and I am very glad of this initiative actually, that somebody has this podcast, sports psychology podcasts, and there is a realistic conversation that happens here. There is nothing, no filters. So learn more. I think this is the best platform for all the students and people to learn more from the real-time experiences of all the experts who come here. And then accordingly, making some logical decisions about how to go and get into this field, irrespective of which part of the country you are. Eventually, the practice is evolving overall.
This is absolutely very glamorous and very this and that here and there. There are people who basically come from a certain circle and all, and they are into branding themselves and all. But you should brand yourself. But I think you should do some solid work. Your
Yeah.
canvas of your knowledge has to be very vast. Actually, when people say theoretical this and that, and theory makes a lot of sense. If you read this much of theory, you will learn this much of practical out of it. So theoretical background, that canvas, you develop that first, and then obviously, as Dr. Shivjot mentioned here, pretty good advice. Learn from someone who is working in the field. So it's a pretty good conversation with you. Thank you so much, Dr. Shivjot, for taking
Thank
out
you,
time for
Kiran.
us. Yeah, for Sports Tech Talk. And thank you, everyone. Go watch this podcast. Hopefully, you like it. Share your comments in the comment section below, and share this podcast with others so that they also, learn from, Dr. Shivjot and from this very podcast on mental training and, whatever experiences basically we have.